How's it going, everyone? Today, I want to go over a couple things that is probably one of the worst issues of our modern society. And that, of course, is small engine repair fraud. Okay, maybe I was being a little dramatic there. But putting the jokes aside, it is something that's important I want to talk about, and that is small engine repair fraud. I'm going to tell you 3 stories, 2 of which happen to people I work with, or if I do machine, or I work on their machines, and one that happened to me. So, what we're going to first go over is the 2 for people I, work on their machines, including the story behind this one, and then the one about me. And stick around to the end. I'm going to tell you how to be safe, kind of give yourself a little bit more of a idea what to be looking for, how to kind of protect yourself. So stay tuned for that. Grab a drink. I'll be going ahead and starting that. But first things first, let's go ahead and discuss something. This machine, the owner brought it to me, and he said that he took it to a shop, and let's retract a little bit. The owner of this machine wasn't always the owner. He actually found it for free on the side of the road. He lives about an hour north of me, and I did quite a bit of work for his brother, and maybe 1 or 2 machines for his father. So, an hour is a pretty decent drive, and he doesn't always talk to his brother. I'm sure it's not exactly something you bring up and, good conversation. Oh yeah, I got this repaired and blah, 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 blah. So, took this machine to a local shop and gave it to him. 3 days later, gets a phone call back, and they want $185 to repair it, plus a minimum of $40 just to even look at it. So he owes them $40 by now. So they said they were going to get it started and to go ahead and come back. He's like, whoa. I didn't agree to that. I just wanted a diagnosis. They're like, well, you have about 72 hours for that offer. It could go up. Prices change every day. All kinds of nonsense. So he mentioned, I believe, to his brother or his father or something about it, and asked if it'd be okay for his brother to contact me and see if I would do it. He called me. I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. Bring it on over. Brings it on over. I pull on it. Not a single bit of compression. A single bit. So naturally, I'm like, well, that's not good. And I noticed something, though. There was no spark plug in it. So the spark plug you see in there now is actually a brand new one. And I put it in there just to kind of see what the compression would be like, because I can't necessarily Mr. Stretch myself and put my finger over it, and the compression tester was kind of far, and this was just easier. So I gave it a pull, and look, it has compression. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's good. Well, then I did this. Started right up. I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, what did they tell you? Like, what was the $185 for? They said this machine needed a brand new carb. They need to dispose of the gasoline, they need to put a new carb in there, and they need to replace the fuel lines. And that should fix the problem. And obviously, that didn't fix the problem. A spark plug did. I don't know why the person took out a spark plug for a machine that still ran. Maybe they got a new one. I don't know. But yeah, so I tell them, you know what we'll do? I'm going to go ahead and let this run outside for about 10 to 15 minutes. And if it has any problems, then we'll go down that avenue. Maybe they saw water in there. I don't know. But then I look at the tank, and the tank was pretty much empty. So I've put in about half a quart, maybe a little less. And I put it out there. Not a single problem. So I call him back. I'm like, hey, so yeah, there's really nothing wrong. I mean, the worst thing is, I did look at the oil. It's a little dark, and the air filter was a little dirty. Probably wouldn't be a horrible idea to get it maintained or maintenanced. I can do that. I give him my price, which is not that expensive in my opinion, but it's what I would consider fair. Going to some dude's garage in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's in of itself seems like a sketchy proposition for most people. So, yeah. they were going to just, they didn't even bother to look at it. He even asked me, like, do you think maybe they did do it and they just didn't charge, or they didn't actually put it on an invoice that they did it, or maybe it was a mix-up? I'm like, you know what, that is an excellent question. I then tipped the mower up. That carb is just caked with crap. It looks like it's been used for a while, and it has, because they didn't do a single thing to that carb. So fast forward, I'm now in the process of maintaining this. I'm into changing the oil, all that stuff, and you need to be careful of situations like that. Next story I want to tell you is kind of similar, but different in a different way. This happened towards the middle of spring, I want to say, and person, never met the person, lives about 25, 30 minutes, I'm not 100% sure where their house is, away from me. And they go to a shop, they have a Honda GCV 160, and it's not starting. The shop tells them you need to pay $60 for a diagnosis, okay? And they call back about 10 days later. They said, yep, carburetor's trash. Fuel lines are okay. We need to dispose of the fuel, get a new carb in there. And the whole thing, not including the $60, is going to be $189. So right now he's in there for almost $250. The mower itself was pretty decent. I want to say it was HRX 217 or whatever, I forget the last letter in there, but it's like a $450, $500 mower. It's a pretty good machine. So $250. He's had it for a decent amount of time. He likes it. He wants to get it repaired. He gets it repaired. Takes it home. It's pumping out black smoke. Not a whole lot, but you can tell, and it sounds like it's missing. He figures, maybe it just needs to be worked in or settled out or whatever. He calls them back. They say, nope, it's running. It should be good to go. You just need to deal with it. Or we can look at it again, but it's going to be another $60. Just for them to look at their own mistake. He's like, nope, I already done that. It's running. I'll maybe sell it and buy a new one. Who knows? He then comes over to my house to buy another mower. And he even mentions to me this conversation that he's having from his previous one, because in my ad, I do put in there that if you bring in your old one, I will give you a discount. So, him wanting a discount, he tells me about it, and I'm like, hey, I'm not against the idea of selling you this, because obviously I want the money, and I don't want the machine anymore, but have you considered having me, do you want me just to look at it? I don't charge, and everything else. He's like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. The guy has a larger, I think it was a 350 toolbox in the back, and he even had the receipt in his toolbox. Opens the toolbox, hands it to me. The breakdown of the invoices as follows. He didn't do the 60 because apparently that's a different invoice. The $189 was $89.99 for the carb and $100 for installation, with the installation being $100 an hour with a minimum of 1 hour. It doesn't take an hour to do that, but okay. Minimum, I understand that. You never know. The problem is, when looking at it, the invoice legit said OEM carb. So that tells me it should be the original carb from Honda, made by Honda, and yeah, those are expensive. I don't think they're $90 expensive, but I get the markup. You had to take time to buy it, you had to house it, you had to ship it, you had to, all that stuff. You need to have a little bit of markup on it. Okay. Now, I look at it, this is the farthest thing from a OEM carb. It is the cheapest aftermarket carb I've seen in a long time. I tell the dude, I'm like, so yeah, that carb is nowhere near the right carb. It is definitely not the right one for this machine. The base of it is probably fine, but the jetting is way off. That's why it's getting too much fuel. And I do have jetting for it. If you want to make it a little cheaper, I can just take out the jet, put the new jet in, or I can buy the OEM carb. It's not going to be that much. I found it for 65. I told him 70 because yet again I did take the time. And or I can buy an aftermarket one, but we might run into the same situation. He's like, you know what? Just go ahead and put the jet in there. I'm like, okay. So I put the jet in there. It runs flawless. Like I said, the housing of the carb and everything else is fine. It was just the jetting was off. So he paid way too much money for a cheap part that they basically lied to him about. That to me is not right. In fact, that to me would almost be fraudulent. I hope you have a drink because so do I, so excuse me. Anyway, so we have 2 stories of people getting burned. Those are just 2. Trust me, I have others, but these are the most recent ones. The third one is affecting me a little bit more personally, and that is as follows. I used to have I don't want to say sketchy, but he was a sketchy person that was a landscaper of some sort. He would bring machines over to me, always in a trailer. He never brought it in a ramp, and that ramp, less trailer, he would always end up taking the machine out because he's a shorter guy. He would walk in the trailer, and he'd always put the front wheels out first, and then it wouldn't be, the trailer is a little tall, and he would end up putting the wheels out. The back wheels would then fall off, the front wheels would make contact to the front, and then he would push the handles so the back wheels would hit the concrete and the handles wouldn't hit his trailer. I tell him, dude, you really need to stop that. And he's like, I know. I even offered to make him special ramps for it, or even a gate. He didn't want to spend the money, though. In fact, if you look at a video of mine, it's X-Mark Crunchy Wheels. That's what it is. Just breaks it. Or maybe Bent Wheels. I don't remember the title. So, anyway, brings over another X-Mark. And this is a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly if it wasn't starting or just wasn't staying running for very long, but it was something of the sort, and the carb was leaking. So I tell him, yeah, that's not a problem, I'll get it cleaned up, replace whatever I need to replace in there, and it should be fine. And I did. I replaced the bowl gasket, ultrasonically cleaned it, seat was pretty good, but, I made sure of it. Well, ran fine. He came over, picked it up, paid for it. He always likes to negotiate. I tell him no. Anyway, messages me about 2 days later saying, hey, you did shoddy work. It's not running. And he knows because there was one occasion, I don't remember what it was for. I think there was like a bad belt on one of his machines and it just shredded. So I took the belt back. It was under warranty. It was just a bad belt. I put the new belt on. It works fine. So he knows that when that happens, I personally don't charge unless it's out of negligence. Like if the belt was burned because his deck was full of grass and he couldn't get through there and just like sitting there in one spot burning a hole in it, that's his fault, not mine. Knowing that, he brings it over and I look at it. It's another X-Mark, but it's not the same type. Wait, it's the same type, but it's not the same mower. The one he gave me was a lot newer. The one he's given me at the time was a lot more used. It was in worse condition I've seen for any of those mowers. Like this machine has been used a lot. And he's like, yeah, you need to clean a carb or there's water. I don't know. Like, go ahead and do this. I'm like, that's not the same mower. He says, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. And he gets angry. And like I said, he's a smaller dude. I'm the larger guy. So unfortunately, I did kind of have to, establish a little bit of a dominance. I would just say that. And that probably wasn't the best of ideas. Long story short, police had to be called. He eventually left. And in the meantime, I tell him, never bring your machines back here again. I never want to see you again. In fact, I even had a weed eater for him that I was waiting for. I think it was a gasket or something. I don't remember. Oh yeah, it was a gasket. It was the gasket for the valve cover for a steel. And when I took the cover off, it did rip. So I ordered a new one, and I was waiting for that. But oddly enough, that came the very next day after I tell him this. If I tell him, I'm never working with your machines again, take this one too. So that was something for me, which, yet again, I'm not happy of having to lose someone in certain circumstances, but it has to happen. You can't be taken advantage of, and I'm not going to be. Next thing you know, we're done with our stories. Yay. So the part that is probably the meat and potatoes of the video is this. I'm going to give you a couple things of being the consumer or person that takes it to the place, my garage, wherever. Interesting. I just noticed this. Do you see something wrong here? I think I know why it was given away. That blade's on backwards. I bet the person that had this was like, man, this cuts like crap, and just put it on the side of the road. That's always, I now know why it's free. Anyway, so back to the story at hand. Things that you can do to go ahead and protect yourself. One, before you take the machine in there, document it, take pictures. I would definitely take pictures of underneath the machine. Depending on the machine, if it's a weed eater, take the picture of the head, around the carburetor, stuff like that. Take good pictures. In fact, it'd be even better if you take a video on your phone. It's kind of like what your insurance person tells you to do, like periodically just take a video of your house in case your house burns down. You have like a documented video proof of what you had. That way you have some way of showing them, like, yeah, I actually did have a 75-inch TV. Stuff like that. Anyway, so do that. And then after you do that and you get everything repaired, ask for the parts back and tell them you want the parts back. Reason for that being is one of the stories I didn't tell you, I'm going to change the blade later, is sometimes you'll have what I would like to call like ghosting, where they say they've replaced it. Belts are notorious for this. They say they replaced the belt, but they really didn't, because they're like, oh, well, it's running and the wheels move. The belt's fine. We're going to charge it anyway. So they charge it, never do anything. Ask for the parts back. There's a transmission showing outside for a machine that I replaced it for. Unless it's like filters or something stupid like that, that's stupid easy, like that filter on this machine, or oil, I'm not going to ask for those, or I'm not going to give those parts back, because they can look at the filter and they can look at the oil. But stuff like belts that have like covers and everything that you're not going to be looking at while you're picking it up, definitely ask for that stuff back, especially if it's like a carb, because then you can, if you're having problems, you can compare the two and seeing if they put in the wrong carb, did they do something sketchy, stuff like that. So ask for those parts back, and if they refuse, then I just wouldn't go there. Or do a very healthy inspection. Have them show it to you. Have them run it. Like I said, belts are going to be a little hard, and stuff like that. But if it's pretty obvious that they were replaced, like you took it in there to replace the line in your weed eater, and there's a line in there, it probably is fine. But I probably should wipe this off, huh? But for other stuff that's going to be a little bit more difficult, definitely ask for that. You don't want to have that as an issue. So be wary. That's all I have to say. So we have documented proof. We are asking for the parts back. I would definitely say that is going to be a pretty good way of protecting a lot of it. Of course, not all, but that's going to be you're pretty much setting the expectation with them, saying that, you know what, this person obviously knows that generally what the problem could be, and we're going to actually have to do it. Reputable shops, obviously, you don't have to worry about that or whatnot. In fact, I've seen videos online, I'm not going to say where, but a person takes their machine in for, let's say a hedge trimmer, and it's not running. All they do is prime the primer a few times, and then they shoot a little starting fluid down the throat, and it stays running. Like, oh, perfect, it's running now. Now we can just give it back to the person. When they charge, I'm assuming, for the whole rebuild process, that's not right. So if you are in need of something like that, ask for the gasket back, ask for the diaphragm back, ask for all that stuff back. It sounds weird to them, I'm sure, but just ask for it. Or if you get it back and it's running perfectly fine, and it seems reasonable that they did it, like maybe your carb is super dirty and now it's super clean, yeah, then you don't really have to do that. So let's be a little mindful on that one. But there we go. In general, those are good ways to help protect yourself. I'm not going to get into the legal aspect of any of this because, one, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to say what legal work you have to go around, especially for such small amounts of money. That changes for state to state and country to country. So if you think you have legit fraud, definitely consult your local area and see if you can't, retrieve any money back. But here you go. Now, if you are a person like me and you get machines and you have people such as the one I had earlier or other similar circumstances, consider recording it. If you don't have a security camera, highly recommend it. I have one in the garage as well. I have one outside the garage. I have one all around the house, actually. That is a good documented proof. That's, to be honest, half of the reason why I even started doing this was to document all of it. So good documentation will go a long way. Another important thing, keep a book. I know it sounds weird, but if you're like me and you don't necessarily, let's just say you just do 1 or 2 machines a week in your garage as a hobby, and you just get paid cash, and you haven't set anything up for tax purposes or profit and loss or any of that crap, then a book, a 99-cent notebook, the person's name, the date they dropped it off, the reason why. I probably a few years ago, if I can, I even put the model and, if possible, the serial number, like on this machine. For instance, it is right here. Sometimes it is worn off. That one has a big hole in the center of it. I mean, I usually will write as much as I can, but the stuff like this that we're doing right now, if they ever say anything, guess what? I have a video proof. I did put oil on there. Obviously, you didn't see the spark plug or anything, but that's fine. If I do buy parts, I usually try to do it online. I try to get the email receipt of it. So if anyone complains that I'm charging extra for parts, guess what? I have a receipt, and that's it. So keep your receipts. Those, especially if you're just a person that does it on the side, I would say a good year. Or if it's an email, just keep it until your email fills up. I mean, it's not that hard. It's just an email. Pictures on your end is also great. If you can take a picture of the machine, how you got it, and how you are sending it back, especially if you cleaned it, and something happens where there's like oil spraying everywhere next time or whatnot, and they complain that there is like a crack, and if you didn't do the crack, maybe it's done in transportation, who knows? Guess what? You have a picture, and yet again, can't stress enough, camera. I've had that 2 or 3 times, not with professionals, usually with just individuals, where they say that it's never ran after I got it. I tell them, nope, I had it running. It's either your fuel or something went wrong. I'll still look at it, but I gave it to you running. I don't know what you did to it after. Cannot tell you how many times they put bad fuel in it after it ran, and the story always goes, I got it back and I put fuel in it, I took it in my yard and it stopped running. I don't fill the tanks because I'm not a gas station. I put enough in there to test it adequately, and then a little bit extra if they want to test it when they, you're here. And not much more than that. I'm not here to mow someone's lawn for them or to pay for the fuel for their lawn mowing. So they go home, they put bad fuel, that's on them. That's not me. So, stuff like that. So, good documentation, whether it be written, video, pictures, is always a good idea. Keep your receipts, keep all those documents electronic if possible. And if you keep doing that, I guarantee you, you're going to have a lot better of an issue, or a lot less of an issue. And you don't have to worry about potential people trying to bring in machines that shouldn't be worked on twice and trying to scam you, or don't have to do something for free when all of a sudden you realize, hey, this isn't my fault. Of course, you could just be that person no matter what happens, like that shop. Even if it's my fault, I'm still going to charge you to bring it back. You could always be that way. Probably not going to get a whole lot of repeat business, but you could be that way. So these are my stories for small engine scams. Always be careful out there. Be diligent on where you're taking them. Take it to a reputable place. If it's a place like me, or not even a place like me, if it's someone like me, if they have good stories, you're probably okay, but be diligent on that. There's others who are not as kind-minded, let's just say that. And if you take it to a shop, make sure you do research on it. Make sure they have a good review. If they do have poor reviews, I would look at those reviews, because I'm not saying that certain people are just naturally irritated or just love to argue or anything like that. But if you see a lot of issues like, I took it home and nothing was actually done, or stuff like this. But if you see reviews like, oh yeah, I got it home and it only lasted like 3 months, and they said it was actually my fault, and I took it to a different place, and blah 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 blah. Well, I would skip those, to be honest. But the ones, especially ones that seem a little scammy, definitely be wary of those shops. But try to find ones, and you can even test it. You can take like something simple that you could do, maybe you just don't want to, and if they give you an honest, good reply, well, that might be a shop to consider taking it back to, because yet again, they're honest and they're reputable. And then if you ever have anything larger in the future, you know exactly where to take it. You don't have to worry about being scammed. So, I hope this has helped some people out there. If you have been scammed before, leave a comment below, explain your situation. If you need any help with anything that, as a result of it, you can't afford it, or anything else, you just need some general help and tips, leave a comment below. I'll definitely be happy to give you my suggestion. If you need personalized help, feel free to becoming a member. That is a perk, and I'll be happy to help your situation out. Definitely subscribe, put a thumbs up if that helped you out. It helps me out. And I will catch you on the next one. You have a good rest of your day.